Jamie Raskin is calling this exactly what it looks like, a cover-up. Newly released Epstein files are almost completely blacked out, and Raskin says the law doesn't allow it. So who are they protecting, and why?
Congressman, thank you so much for being with us this morning. It's great to see you. Is this a cover-up?
Well, sure. I mean, if you read the statute, the only things they're allowed to be redacting are related to child sex abuse, physical abuse, ongoing investigations, which they say there are none, and national security. So how can you block out an entire document? It makes no sense. And remember, Trump opposed the legislation up until the very end when he could read the writing on the wall. Then he said, oh, I'm for it. They decided they're just going to try to obstruct the implementation of the legislation. So that's the fight that we're in now.
Do you think the 30-day time frame for release of these documents was realistic?
Well, yeah, given that they came to us back in July and said they'd been through all the documents and they couldn't find any basis for bringing any other lawsuits, they'd already scrutinized them.
What of this do you think falls into the category of protecting victims, and what falls into the category of cover-up? Because obviously there is a very strong interest in making sure the victims are protected.
Yeah, I'd say probably 0 and 100. They've not shown any deference or respect for the victims at all, for the survivors of this nightmare. And it's all about covering up things that, for whatever reason, Donald Trump doesn't want to go public, either about himself, other members of his family, friends, Jeffrey Epstein, or just the social, business, cultural network that he was involved in for at least a decade, if not longer.
So do you think the actions that the Department of Justice are taking on this are specifically designed to protect Donald Trump?
Well, what else? I mean, that's their whole business model. In fact, they're trying to reorganize American constitutional jurisprudence and the rule of law around the idea that the entire executive branch serves one guy. That's the unitary executive theory, that this is all about serving whatever Donald Trump wants. So yeah, I can't imagine what other interests they have in mind.
One of the things we did see were a number of pictures of former President Bill Clinton with Jeffrey Epstein, with Ghislaine Maxwell, in a jacuzzi, swimming in a pool. How do you explain that connection, and are you comfortable with it?
I mean, I have no idea. This is why we want to get to the bottom of it and get all of the facts out to, to the public. I mean, that's what this is about. And, look, there are clearly lots of people that are in photographs with Jeffrey Epstein. And in addition to being a child sex predator and an international child sex abuse trafficker, he was very much of a socialite and a sycophant and a panderer to different people. So there's lots of people who've appeared in those contexts, and we shouldn't be covering up for anybody if they were actually involved in criminality. And otherwise, it's embarrassing to people, but the Congress has said we don't want the suppression of materials simply because somebody may be embarrassed. I mean, Bill Clinton has appeared along with Donald Trump, along with Noam Chomsky, and other people from different aspects of our society. But what we're looking at is, how did a global, decades-long, billion-dollar sex ring go undetected and unpoliced for such a long period of time? This is about a double system of justice. Remember, he was convicted back in 2008, but that didn't stop him from going forward and continuing to run the whole network.
I mean, Republicans would probably sit here and say, well, why didn't you do this when Joe Biden was president of the United States, when you had the power?
Well, if they ask me personally, I can produce for you, as I've produced for them, a number of letters I wrote, including a hearing I did as a subcommittee chair on the Oversight Committee about Alex Acosta and the double system of government that we saw back in Florida. Remember, there was a 60-count federal indictment ready to go on this international child sex trafficking ring with all kinds of counts, including the money laundering, the conspiracy, the prostitution, and so on. And Alex Acosta cast the whole thing overboard and came back with one state count of solicitation in Florida to benefit Epstein and his friends, and there was really a cover-up of other people who were involved as part of that plea bargain agreement. And I've got the letters to show how I was demanding hearings on that back in 2018, 2019. So that's just phony. In any event, accusing somebody else of hypocrisy doesn't demonstrate that you're actually interested in getting to the bottom of the crime. And that's what we need to be doing here.
Are you planning to sue the Justice Department to release the rest of these files?
It's not clear that we've got standing to do that. Speaker Johnson would clearly have standing to do that on behalf of the whole House of Representatives. The court rules about standing of individual members or the minority caucus are very restrictive and hostile. So we're going to be doing whatever we can to elevate this, to keep it in the public imagination, and to demand that they turn the documents over. But if it's possible, we will be bringing litigation, but we're trying to work that through right now.
Are you considering, or would you support attempting to impeach the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, as some of other colleagues have suggested is possible?
I mean, look, I think everything is on the table here, but people are coming up with solutions that require a majority in Congress. So we know the Republicans are in control in the House, they're in control in the Senate. So when people say, let's impeach Bondi, let's impeach Robert F. Kennedy, let's impeach Trump or whomever, I say, bring me some Republicans and we can have a conversation. Otherwise, what happens is what happened the other day to Al Green. You get up on the floor and then the whole thing is shot down immediately. So that's purely performative. We're interested in actually getting these materials out.
Yeah. So speaking of what happened on the floor, impeachment, I'd like to turn to politics because, as you mentioned, that impeachment vote did fail on the floor of the House. If Democrats retake the House in the fall, which is looking increasingly likely next fall in the midterm elections, do you think impeaching the president should be something the House looks at?
I mean, right now we are all 100% absorbed in trying to do the work of getting information out that's being withheld by Trump, and then going out and campaigning around the country. I mean, I've been in Ohio with Amelia Sykes and Marcy Kaptur. I've been in Texas. I've been in Michigan with Hillary Scholten and Debbie Dingell. I've been in New Jersey with Nellie Paul. I'm campaigning all over the country. So when people say, well, we want to impeach everybody for all these high crimes and misdemeanors, I say, okay, create your file, create your case, and we'll deal with it. But we're certainly not running on that. We're running on delivering health care to the American people and trying to restore the government as an instrument for the common good for everybody, as opposed to being an instrument for the private self-enrichment of the guy who gets in and his family and his friends. And that's all we're seeing right now. And this is why the president's poll numbers are sinking like a stone. Their administration is collapsing in a lot of ways. They've got no program for the American people.
The Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, did an autopsy of what went wrong for Democrats in 2024, which of course gave us, the second Trump term.
What went wrong is we lost the election.
Well, they've said that they're not going to release the report on why, right? And Ken Martin, the DNC chair, says, here's our North Star. Does it help us win? If the answer is no, it is a distraction from the core mission. How is learning from mistakes a distraction from the mission?
So, but I've not seen that report. And yeah, usually, certainly in Washington, if you're going to do a report, that's something that's going to become public, or people are going to find it out one way or another. So if you don't want your answers shared, you probably shouldn't be engaged in the enterprise in the first place. But look, this is what the historians called overdetermined, right? There are so many different available causes for anything that happens in politics. Why did somebody win an election? Why did somebody lose an election? And there's certain obvious things. Obviously the whole, dance between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris didn't help us. Everybody knows that. That's no secret to anybody. And maybe there are other factors, and I don't see why we wouldn't just share them and talk about them. But you can never say in history definitively. I mean, what caused the French Revolution? They're still fighting about that today.
Fair enough. All right, Congressman Jamie Raskin, thank you very much for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Jamie Raskin isn't hedging his words. He's accusing the Justice Department of actively obstructing the law. According to Raskin, the Epstein disclosure statute is crystal clear. Redactions are only allowed to protect victims, national security, or active investigations. Yet entire pages are blacked out, even though the DOJ claims there are no ongoing investigations. Raskin argues this has nothing to do with protecting survivors and everything to do with shielding powerful people, possibly Donald Trump, his associates, or the broader elite network that surrounded Jeffrey Epstein for decades. He calls it a double system of justice, pointing to Epstein's 2008 plea deal as proof that accountability has failed before and may be failing again. What makes this moment explosive is Raskin's warning that the executive branch is being reshaped to serve one man, not the rule of law. While photos of Epstein with figures across the political spectrum resurface, Raskin insists embarrassment is not a legal excuse for secrecy. Congress demanded transparency and instead got blackout pages. The stakes are enormous. Either the public sees the truth, or this becomes one of the most blatant institutional cover-ups in modern history.